To begin, I'd like to introduce Dara Parker. She's a holistic health coach and a yoga instructor, and she also happens to be my cousin. This challenge is an introduction to kind of a different way of thinking and taking a bigger look at our overall health. And the reason I didn't want to get a trainer or like a dietitian to come and tell you exactly what to eat and when to eat it and how to eat it is because our overall goal is for you to just open the scope of how you define health. And with integrative nutrition, the way it works is they give you an idea of how to look at health holistically, like in an overall bird's eye view, rather than count this and look at these specific details. And so Dara is not a specific weight loss specialist, but you still might lose weight. But these are just helpful suggestions to give you body awareness, which is super aligned with what we're already doing in our yoga classes. We're not necessarily going to make you burn 500 calories every class, even though today's class was a nice sweaty one, Scarlett. But we want mindful movement. So as you move, you kind of ask yourself, like, what's working, what's not? These are the signals your body's giving you. So without further ado, Dara is going to kind of take us into what that means from a nutrition point of view.
Thank you for that introduction. That was awesome. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We practiced, so I hope this works. Can you all see my slides here? Everybody see that?
Yeah. Yes, we see your slides.
Okay, perfect. Like she said, my name is Dara, and I'm a certified integrative nutrition coach. I've been coaching specifically women in the area of overall wellness for 7 years now. I'm also a registered yoga teacher and a culinary arts teacher. And I've been teaching in some capacity for about 17 years. So I just love kind of sharing everything that I learn, and so everyone can benefit from that. So anything you see here on my slides, please feel free to screenshot and share it with more people, because these are the things that have benefited me in my own health journey. And so I am more than happy to share it with whoever wants it. And then Allie's going to kind of monitor the chat. So if you have questions along the way, go ahead and put those questions in the chat, and then so that we can address them all at the proper time. All right, so overall wellness, like Ali said, the idea of integrative nutrition is that food is not the only thing we can use to nourish ourselves. There are so many other things that we can use to nourish ourselves, like time with friends or yoga through movement. So I like to separate the idea of wellness into 3 pillars. So today, that's what we're going to be looking at, including the integrative nutrition plate. So the first pillar is food and hydration. I think most of you are here today because you want information about what to eat. I think that's kind of how it was marketed in terms of what we were going to talk about for the Zoom, and we are. But there are 3 important pillars. The first one is definitely food and hydration. Food is not just things we put in our mouth. I know that a lot of times we live very disconnected from ourselves, and so it feels like we're not really paying attention to what we're eating. And so it's important to be aware of that. But when we choose foods to eat, we're actually using it as medicine. So it's not just energy, it's information. And every time we eat something, we're either feeding or fighting disease. So let's just, as an example, if you're somebody already with an underlying health condition, I'll use arthritis because that's something I struggle with. When you eat and when you choose your foods, you're choosing whether you're going to exacerbate that underlying issue or you're going to help it, right? You're going to use foods that calm that inflammation down. So it's not just something that we should ignore. It's something that we should actually pay a lot of attention to every time we sit down to enjoy our food. It's also a way for us to feel connected to our bodies. So just like in yoga, when we ask ourselves like, I wonder how it feels if I move my leg a little bit more to the right, or if I bend my knees. Same with food. It takes our stomachs 20 minutes to talk to our brains and to tell our brain whether or not we're full yet. And so if we've finished all the food on our plate before the 20 minutes has already happened, a lot of times that's when we feel like, oh my gosh, I just ate way too much. Or I didn't even like that, and I ate the whole plate, you know. So it's important to use food as a tool to connect back to your body, just like we do with yoga. And then we're going to get a little bit more specific with the meals in just a minute. But in general, you need to, I don't like to say you need to, you should try to prioritize things like fiber for detoxification. In our current environment, we have so many things coming at us from different directions, including beauty products, or just normal environmental toxins that are around us. We have a tendency to drink a lot of water out of plastic bottles, which excrete toxins. So the more foods that we can choose that contain fiber, fruits and vegetables specifically, they work like little scrubbers, like little, sweepers, and sweep out all the things that our body doesn't need. And then our digestion can do the rest of the work with our bowel movement. So fiber, healthy fats for brain health, and clean protein for energy. I know that for energy, we tend to look to caffeine or sugar, and those can give us a really quick spike in our blood sugar and give us quick energy, but not sustainable energy, not the kind that we want to get us through the rest of the day. So vegetables, good fats, and healthy proteins. And if you're plant-based, somebody who's plant-based, I always encourage you to look for protein sources in their original forms. Allie can help you with this. She's been doing this a long time, but beans, legumes, lentils, chickpeas, things that are already in their natural forms, rather than like plant-based burgers, for example, that are mostly like man-made items and chemicals and things like that. Okay. All right. Avoiding processed carbohydrates is helpful. Again, in general, the big question could be like, is what I'm eating in front of me in its original form? So, things that are already the way that they are made in nature are the best sources of nutrition. Now, we're going to have to eat things that come out of packages. Sometimes that's just the nature of, day-to-day life. But if 80% of the time you're prioritizing foods in their natural forms, and I saw those beautiful bowls that you all got to try the other day, those are perfect. Everything is exactly the way it was made in nature, and the more colorful, the better. So when we do this, we don't have to. I struggle to say this because people will have trainers that say, yes, you do. But I have found in my own personal journey that I don't have to be counting the macros and the calories and I can only have this many at this meal and this many, because it kind of takes care of itself. Your fullness factor, your satiety is going to be much better if you're eating foods that are nutritious. And so it crowds out foods that normally wouldn't make you feel good. Those are the ones we usually have to count. So, for the sake of integrative nutrition, I would say counting calories is a minimal priority if you're eating whole foods, whole nutritious foods. We'll get into the specifics of those in just a minute. I just wanted to say a word about dehydration. A lot of people walk around every day with headaches, with nausea, with body aches, with fatigue, and they go straight to things like caffeine or Motrin or processed foods. And when in reality, a lot of times it's just I say just dehydration, it's dehydration. And even a 2% level of dehydration can cause all of those symptoms. So I want to encourage you, before you go to your natural habits of grabbing things to help with those symptoms, that you ask yourself if you've had enough water first.
Let me drink my water. This is water in here, I swear.
I have mine here. So you lose sodium, you lose electrolytes, you lose all of those things when you're dehydrated. And it specifically has a very negative impact on your brain health. So, and you can feel it. You feel lethargic when you're dehydrated. So please stop me if you have questions, because I feel like I'm going a little fast. All right, so here's the plate that Ali introduced a little bit, and I want to go into a little bit more detail with you. This is, like I said, integrative nutrition is more than just about the food. You see the food here, and we'll get to that, but that's really secondary to what we call primary food. And before even the primary food, sleep. So out here, we put the sleep because, and we talk about sleep because if you're not sleeping, none of this is going to work. None of this. So, if you do nothing else during this challenge, a wonderful goal for you, if you're not sleeping well, is to figure out, number one, why you're not sleeping well. And number two, to maybe work on a bedtime routine, or how you can put your phone away 30 minutes before bed, or whatever that's going to look like for you. Because if you're not sleeping, none of this is going to work. I think let me see.
Sarah just joined. Can you just mute her? Hi, Sarah.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought I was.
Okay, don't worry, don't worry. I'm so glad you could join.
Yes, let me.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, once we've taken care of the sleep, and you have energy because your body does what it needs to do while you sleep, it detoxifies your brain, it cleans up your digestion, all of that. Once that's working well, then you can move on to what we call primary foods. So these are the things on the outside of the plate that kind of make our whole world go round. So, and some of them are interconnected. So relationships, spirituality, career, and even if you work in the home, even if you're not don't have an outside job, or if you're a student, all of these things can affect your health if they're not fulfilling. So, and some of them interconnect, like for example, yoga might be for you both a mix of physical activity and spirituality. So yoga is great for everybody. Yoga is for everybody because it can hit all of these areas. Relationships, because you're with people and we were made for community, physical activity, spirituality. You can even become a yoga teacher, and then you've really hit all of those. But what happens is when one of those things is off balance, it naturally ends up on the plate here. So I want you to think about, for example, this happens to me a lot because I have a preteen, but when I have a rough morning with my daughter on the way to school, it kind of messes up the flow of my day. And so I don't choose the best foods for me, the most nourishing foods for me. Maybe I'll drink a little bit more coffee. If I'm paying attention, I notice that when there's imbalance in those primary foods on the outside, it always ends up on my plate. If I have a bad day at work, I won't make the most nourishing choices food wise. So it's important, and we're going to go into this in a lot more detail on Tuesday when we do the activity that Ali is going to provide you with. But until you kind of figure out where the imbalances are in that primary food, the food that you're actually consuming, this part, is going to be hard to get consistent with. Does that make sense? Because it has that umbrella, and every time something goes wrong with that umbrella, it ends up messing with our nutrition. So once we find balance in that primary food in all of those areas, and obviously it's going to ebb and flow, it's never going to be perfect. But once we get a little bit of flow going with that, with those primary foods, we can start to focus on what should be on our plate. And this is not to say, like, I think it's hard because we live in a diet culture where there's a lot of shame associated with food. And especially if we grew up with eating stories that included a lot of shame, we will give ourselves such a hard time with food. And it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to give up foods that you enjoy and that you love, and they're connected to your culture, and those are nourishing too. The idea here is to add in more foods that are in their original forms that nourish your body. It's not to take away anything. Naturally, when you do that, when you add in these nourishing foods, you're not going to want the more inflammatory foods that are sometimes not as beneficial, because you don't have as much space on your plate anymore. Does that make sense? And I have really tried to teach clients to stop using the words good and bad when we're talking about food, because food does not have moral value. You're not a bad person if you eat a pancake, and you're not a good person if you drink all your water for the day. That it has zero moral value, and all those two words do is cause shame. So they're not helpful, they're not beneficial. And so I want you to start kind of listening to your language around food. And instead of having a restrictive mindset, ask yourself, on a perfect day, I would have half of my plate full of fruits and vegetables. And no, you don't have to say, well, I can't have the watermelon or I can't have the pineapple because those have sugar. Because I guarantee you, any fruit or vegetable you put on your plate is going to be better than the tacos you're getting at Taco Palenque. Okay. Plus they have fiber, plus they have minerals, plus they have nutrients. So fill up that plate with colorful fruits and vegetables, and don't think twice about that. Healthy protein. So in their original forms, again, eggs, meat. If you do animal protein, I eat animal protein. So chicken, fish, shrimp. I'm trying to think what else. If you're into the plant-based foods, you could do tofu, tempeh. There's so many options, but the protein here is intended to be in its original form. Okay. And then ancient grains are things like rice, quinoa, oats, again, grains in their original forms. So a lot of people ask me, well, can I have a piece of toast right here? You can do whatever you want, whatever nourishes you. Bread has been modified like 4 or 5 times to be what it is. So you're not getting as much nutrition from something that's been modified, but you're still being nourished. So, Ali found a wonderful bread today at the grocery store. Maybe she can share that with the group later. But in general, just things in their most original forms are going to be the most nutritious. And then healthy fats and oils. So avocado, nuts, seeds, coconut oil, avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil. And it's really just like a thumbprint. So it's what you use to cook your food with. It's not like two whole avocados. Again, though, if it was that as opposed to two piratas, or whatever, then you're definitely winning. So ask yourself, okay, I'm eating this food. What can I add to it to make it more colorful, more nutritious? And I like to say more crunchy, because usually the nutritious food is crunchy. So, and then water, just a word about water. The ideal intake would be half your weight in ounces. So I drink 2 of these. This is 40 ounces, about 40 ounces. And I try to drink about 2 of those a day. It's about preference, and it's about also, like, I work out in the morning, so I end up drinking a full one with my workout. So it's not necessarily that I need that much, but ideally it would be half your weight in ounces. I want to just make a suggestion too, that if you have any kind of, really anyone, but if you have or are prone to any kind of hormonal imbalances, I would stop using the plastic water bottles. I know that it's really hard because that's what everybody has and that's what everybody uses, but they contain a lot of toxic chemicals that are leached into the water, and they cause hormonal issues for women specifically. So like a stainless steel bottle or a glass bottle, or a mug like Allie's using, those are ideal when it comes to water. And just really try to stay away from plastic containers if you can. Okay, this says that these are healthy snacks for kids, but these are some of my favorite snacks. So what I tell people with snacks is we tend to grab carbohydrates first when we go to snacks, because we want energy and our brain tells us to grab the carbs. So that's great. You need them for energy, but put clothes on your carbs. Okay, so you need fat, protein, and carbs for a complete snack or meal. So just as an example, an apple is great. It has carbohydrates, but it also has fiber, and it also has nutrition. And then you could add cheese, which would add protein and healthy fat. So you have a perfect snack. That's a perfect snack. You've covered all the bases. And crunch. You're going to notice all of these have crunch because I need some crunch. Hummus or ranch with carrots. You've got, with the hummus, healthy fat, a little bit of protein. You have fiber in the carrots, and you have crunch. Banana with a handful of nuts. You've covered your bases there. Greek yogurt with berries. Ideally, the yogurt would be unsweetened, and you'd use the good fruit, the nutritious fruit, to sweeten it. So these are some good things to grab for snacks. Other ways to get more vegetables are throwing it in your sauces. Like when you make pasta sauce, I throw chopped up carrots, onions, spinach, anything you have on hand, zucchini. I think I've seen Dee Dee add zucchini to her spaghetti. So those are just great ways to just toss extra nutrients in your smoothie. If you drink smoothies, in your sandwiches, with whatever dips you're using, you could use vegetables instead of chips. And then scrambled eggs are so nutritious. You could add, they take 2 minutes to scramble. They're high protein, super high in nutrition, and then adding the vegetables adds fiber. So these are some great ways to just add in more vegetables. Okay, so we talked about food and water. These are some habits. I'm not going to go too in detail about these, but these are kind of the things on the outside that we talked about that kind of make our days go flow the way they do. And you want to try to start developing impactful habits a little bit at a time. If you want long-term change, if you don't want this to just be a 1-month challenge, prioritizing family, friends, nutritious foods, focusing on your sleep and on your movement and your yoga right now, since this is a yoga challenge. And then whatever your faith looks like, really cultivating habits in those areas, reading about things that matter to you. I'm reading a really, really impactful book right now. It's called Atomic Habits, and he hits on all of these areas. I highly suggest you read it or listen to it. You'll benefit from that. And then the final pillar is support. We can't do any of this on our own. And that's why these challenges are great. And I highly encourage you to like join all the challenges, because we're made for community, and that's what these challenges help with. So even with the perfect diet, even if you're eating like the perfect macro levels and all of that, you're still going to have gaps in your nutrition. So a lot of women ask me, like, if I were going to take supplements, what are the best ones to start with? And there are 3: a multivitamin, because that will fill in the nutrition gaps; magnesium, specifically glycinate for women, magnesium glycinate, which helps with the nervous system, helps with sleep, helps with digestion, helps with brain health, all of those things. And then vitamin D3. Most of the US population is deficient in D3, and sunshine actually helps you to produce that. So take a supplement if you feel lethargic, but also get out into the sun. And if all of this or any of this feels overwhelming, I suggest you hire a coach, or make some time with Allie, and she can kind of walk you through some of the things that are keeping you stuck, because there's so much that you can do with someone who actually has information. And speaking of information, I wanted to make sure that I said this. When you have a bad day, when you have a day that doesn't go the way you planned it, or you didn't make it to the yoga class that you wanted to make it to, or you didn't eat the way you had planned, just use that as information. It's great information for how you want to make sure you don't want another day to go. We tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves and say, oh, I messed it up, so I may as well not go back to yoga, or I may as well, like, I messed it up, so, you know, the challenge is over for me, or whatever. Use that day as information, journal about it, talk to someone about it, and then move on. Just keep moving. That's the most important thing that you can do. So I think that's all I have. This is my information. If you have, we're gonna maybe do some questions, but if you have like more personal or individual questions, I'd love to chat with you individually, and that's also my email address. So you're not muted, Allie. Go
I
ahead.
just unmuted myself. Yes, because I just wanted to mention, so Dara has very, very graciously opened up her coaching on her website. She has 30-minute coaching sessions, so that during this challenge, if you want to take advantage of that, it's the perfect resource. It's at your fingertips. Why wouldn't you use it in these 21 days if you feel stuck, or you feel just like, I'm doing all the things, but I want one more little, just like, what's the word, like a little bit of validation to make sure I'm on the right track. Use that resource. And I can resend the link in the chat group again. But I'm so grateful to her for helping us.
Were there any specific questions let's see.
Not yet. Yeah. They're just lots of great Yes, yes.
Do you guys have any specific questions? There aren't any like dumb questions, because probably if you're thinking about it, someone else is for sure. So anything, anything.
Yes, hello. Hi. Question.
Hi.
I keep seeing, my name is Scarlett. Hello. I keep seeing on TikTok that people are now replacing like even their almond milk or oat milk in their coffee with a protein shake or any kind of like a protein powder to kind of fill them up. Um, as somebody who does like coffee, but I'm not like super dependent on it, I'm trying to find ways to like lessen, I guess, my intake even more. But do you like, would you recommend replacing kind of, even if I'm doing almond milk or oat milk, with a protein shake or something like that?
I think that's just a preference thing. Like, I don't want anyone telling me how to take my coffee. So I think that's preference. What I always do is I check ingredients, right? Like the thing that worries me about those like Premier protein that they're using for like creamers is that they have this long list of ingredients. And so like, just for example, if you don't love just plain water, these are my favorite. This is Spindrift, and it has carbonated water, raspberry, and lime juice. And it's a very tiny bit of, so like those are 3 natural ingredients that are not chemically based. And so if I were you, I would drink what tastes good, and
I
then
like
go,
that. Yeah.
drink what tastes good with the idea in mind that you're trying to get the ingredients that are in their most natural forms.
Okay.
So, and so a word about coffee, like when I started this journey 12 years ago or whatever, I was drinking venti. I'm not joking. Venti double mochas on my way to school every morning. And I can't even imagine what that was doing to my health or to my brain, but I slowly just backed up. So I went to regular coffee with cream and sugar. And then I went to making regular coffee at home with coconut sugar and just half and
Slowly.
half.
Okay.
And then I took out the sugar and used cinnamon instead. And so like, you don't have to like go straight to nothing or a protein shake. Like if you like drinking coffee, find a way to drink coffee. Yeah.
All right.
Sarah, if I can add on to that, one of our Zoom chats is about exactly that. And I think maybe like 3 more sessions, we have a Zoom chat dedicated to your morning drink. And if you want to start experimenting with other more holistic, like using cinnamon and using maca and using what's the other one? Like nutmeg and all various spices to make like a yummy little, you basically make it in a mason jar and put all of the herbal and spices that you want, and then you can use that in the morning to go.
As a sweetener.
Yeah, and matcha. Yeah.
So I like matcha as well. And then I keep hearing about maca. I feel like that's like a new trend.
They're very different. Do you
Yeah.
want to say, Dara?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So maca is a root, just like ginger, and it's a root. It's not matcha tea.
Matcha tea.
Matcha is a tea and a leaf. Yeah. And like Paola is mentioning in the chat, matcha teas are also a good alternative. For me, I don't love green tea. So it's an acquired taste. It's not that that's just not the path for me, because I don't like the way it tastes. Like she said, I want it to taste good and be healthy. So I look for more cinnamony, but it's a preference. There's a lot of people that really like matcha. Dara Sell is saying, what's a good alternative for coffee? I have gastroparesis and IBS. So instead of doing prescribed laxatives, I use coffee, but I want to cut down on caffeine.
Yeah, I mean, I would try some of the teas. They offer sustainable energy, specifically matcha tea. And that's easier on the digestion, and you can add cinnamon and things like that
She's
to make it.
asking like as a natural laxative, I think. Like she uses her coffee so that she can, I guess. instead of doing the prescribed laxatives.
I might take a good look at, like, again, the plate. What does the plate look like? Because if you're prioritizing half of your plate, fruits and vegetables
Fiber.
and whole grains, your digestion, a little by little, is going to start taking care of itself. Now I would be careful with things that you're sensitive to, for sure. Like if there's something that you're sensitive to, don't add a bunch of quinoa to your plate if it makes you feel bad. But the fiber takes care of a lot of the digestive issues that we think are, like, we have this story that we've been told, like, oh, you've had digestion issues your whole life. You've had trouble going to the restroom, or you had colic or whatever. And so we just think it's part of our story, and we haven't tried anything else. But your food can really make a huge difference. So
awesome, thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? I can show that bread really quick, even though, like, I was once told that there is no more healthy bread on the planet. That all of the grains that we ingest are somehow genetically modified through the water or the runoff or the rain and all of that, that it's just bad. But I know that there's sprouted breads like Ezekiel bread. With Ezekiel bread, I do love it. That's the one, guys, in case you don't know, that's the bread that you can like leave in the freezer because it's sprouted and then you have to take it out. But then you have to defrost it and toast it. And so sometimes there's not time for that. So I just happened to find this one and I was telling Dara, but let me get it.
the fact that you have to defrost it to eat it is usually a good sign. That means it's really fresh. So
So I had never seen this one, and I was just curious if there was anything new. And it says organics multi-seed organic bread, and it's plant-based. And it says it's non-GMO, and it has 12 grams of whole grains, 100 calories, and it has brown flax seeds, black sesame seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds. And I got this at H-E-B Saunders. Oh, Sel says she loves it. It's super good. I'm glad. I haven't tried it yet. But the ingredients, like Dara said, if I read them all, it's all things I'm familiar with. There's nothing strange or weird in here. It's pretty clean. So I'm gonna try it.
anything you can replace or substitute that way, just slowly making your way, like I said, not restricting it, like, oh, I can't have any bread. Again, using that word bad, like bread is bad. No, it's not bad. It doesn't have moral value. It's just maybe not as nutritious. So maybe,
or like you said, it's not in the natural form anymore. It's been modified a couple times.
Yeah.
I did love that saying. I think I out of everything that you said, it was all amazing, but like that saying specifically, the food doesn't have any moral value. I think such an incredible phrase, because it's so true. People have a tough relationship with food because of the shame and like the vocabulary that we use with it. And you don't think that words like, oh, this is good or this is bad is going to be like have this huge effect, but it really does. And you just changing it to, it doesn't have moral value. It's like, that makes so much sense. And it's just like brilliant that you said that, because it's completely true. So I think that's changed my perspective. Like I'm going to keep that for a long, long time. So
good. I hope that helps you. That really helped me, I think, and because people around you will use that language, like, oh, you're going to eat that? That's bad, And so all of a sudden we feel like oh, I'm bad. I ate something bad. Like, who gets to determine what's bad and good, So yeah.
Scarlett is on rebound because she just got back from Costa Rica and all the delicious natural food over there. And we were talking about trying to find that here.
Yeah, it's just the whole world is eating so just completely different than what we are. Like even in Mexico, they have different tasting foods and stuff. I don't feel as guilty eating pan bimbo when I have white bread here. I'm like, oh, yeah. But, so yeah, no. Anyway.
Thank you so much, Dara. Appreciate it very much. So guys, the next one is on Tuesday.
Mhm.
And it is scheduled for 1:30, but we were thinking about taking a poll to see if 11:30 or 12:30 might be like people's lunch hour, and then maybe they would have a chance to see it and not have to watch it already recorded. So we'll post the time for sure and make sure that that gets out to you guys. And then the copies are going to be at the studio because it is going to be an interactive one and it's going to be lots of fun. If you want to book your sessions with Dara, go to her website so you can do. Thank you, Dara.
Okay, have a
Buddy,
good
come on.
day. Thanks
Thanks
for
so much.
having me.
You all have a good day.